I don't understand why he did that though.
Well, this is all part of the test.
Yeah, true.
Well, do you know the story in Islam with regard to Satan?
I believe, I'm not going to say yes I do, I know a bit.
Well, okay. Well, this idea of allowing Satan to approach us is a mercy to Satan from God.
Okay.
Because we believe that Iblis, Satan, was a jinn, which is another creation of God. So we have the angels of the light, the jinn of the fire, the men of the clay. The jinn were created before men. Jinn also had free will. The jinn worshipped God. Yeah. Yes. By choice. Now, when Adam was created and Allah told everyone to bow to Adam, Satan, the leader of the jinn, said, "I'm better than him." This is where racism enters. Yeah. First racism in existence now. Why? Because he thinks he's better than him, because he's made of what? Fire, which is now arrogance, because you've got no basis to support that. Why is fire greater than clay, for example? So anyway, and remember, this is Satan refusing God to his face. So for that he's accursed, and he's thrown out. And he says, before you punish me, hold my punishment back for me. Yeah, until the day of judgment.
Satan said that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And let me approach them.
Yeah.
And I'll prove to you that this creation of yours won't be grateful to you.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. So this is it now. So basically, Iblis, he's saying, I'm going to prove to you now. Yeah. So God said to him, I'll say God, so we're speaking at the same time. You have respite from your punishment until the day of judgment, and you can approach him as you like.
Yeah. And the amazing thing about that is, even Satan has his prayer answered by God.
Yeah.
It's really poignant to think about that. Yeah. Some people think that we're lost and there's no way back to God. But even Satan, in that moment of disobeying God, he prays to God, especially calling on him, and God grants his prayer.
Yeah. So this is part of our. So now he's allowed to approach us. So he says, very well. Now this is the arrogance again. After what you've done to me, I shall lay in wait for them on your straight path, and I shall assault them from the front, the back, the left, and the right, and you shall see they'll not be grateful to you.
That makes sense as to why.
Yeah. So now we know Satan is our enemy. Yeah. So that's the first thing. And God knows, and then God said He made us weak as well. And then He gives us His enemy to come against us. So we're gonna succumb. But the key is turning back. The key is repentance. So we don't call it the fall in the garden. We call it the slip, the error, the mistake. Because unlike Christianity, where mankind is damned for this event,
childbirth.
Yeah. What God says, very well, after your mistake, you must leave this place and make your dwelling on the earth, and do not be afraid, for I will send my guidance to you from time to time. So we have now Satan as our enemy. So how do we protect ourselves from Satan? Well, God sent messengers to show us how to protect ourselves from Satan. All right? So we start off with, obviously, Adam, Abraham, all of the prophets of God. All of the prophets taught the same thing. God is one, worship Him. Every prophet taught it. Alhamdulillah. So Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is a finality of that. It's the completion of that. Now the reason why messengers had to keep being sent was that when the messenger died, the message would get corrupted and a religion would be born. So God would send another messenger to resurrect the original message, and the people would mock that messenger, and that messenger would be reinforced with miracles and signs and wonders to show they are who they say they are, speaking on behalf of God. When the people accept that, they follow the message. The prophet dies. The people corrupt the message. A new religion is born. Now, it's not people corrupt the message, Satan corrupts the message. Using people, twisting people, deceiving people, giving people visions, illusions. Yeah? So this is how it happens. So with Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, now if you look at all of the messengers before, all their miracles, if you look at what their miracles were, like for example Jesus healing, and Moses the illusions, and the parting of the sea, and all of these things, these were all miracles to be seen by the people of the time. Now today you could say, oh, did it really happen? You could question it. Now this is evidence for us today that particular messenger wasn't for us. Because his miracles are not here to reinforce it. Okay. But the final messenger had to come with a miracle that had to last. The miracle of the last messenger after he died had to remain. So the people like me and you today We can see the miracle. Alhamdulillah. And if we see the miracle today, the reason we embrace Islam today, for example, is the same reason that people followed Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam back in 1400 years ago. Do you get me?
Yeah.
So this is where we are. So that's the first point. So when we look at this miracle, we look at why is the Qur'an a miracle? Yeah. Basically, when this Qur'an was revealed to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, do you know the basic history?
Yeah, over a period of time.
23 years. Okay. But what did the people of the time say? What did the Quraysh say? The people who was leaders of Mecca at that time say? Remember, this is a place of idol worship.
Well, I assume some believed and some didn't.
Right. So imagine the scenario now. You're in this town, which makes its living of idol worship.
Yeah.
People would bring their gods, their idols, from all the tribes around to worship them at the Kaaba. Okay? And then the merchants of Mecca would trade. And this is how they made their dough. All right? 360 idols, yeah? Now you're being told now to go down there and go, stop! Stop what you're doing. It's all a mistake. Worship the one God. All right. And this Subhanallah. So this is what he was told to do. Now, when the Quran was being revealed, he was coming out with this Arabic of the Quran. Now, you can correct me if I get any of this wrong, because my man here is a little bit more on the specifics. So basically, they send people to inquire of him. Now, like I said to you, in the time of Moses, magic was the thing. So when Moses came with his staff and all this and the 7 plagues, the magicians were the first people to follow Moses, to recognize him, because he's doing things that go beyond the realms of illusion. All right. In the time of Jesus, it was the medics and the healers who recognized what he was doing was beyond the realms of healing. Okay. In the time of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Arabic and poetry was the thing. So he was coming out with this eloquent poetry.
And 5 of the greatest known Arab poets were alive at the time.
Because the Quran was, exceeded, the poetry.
Were alive at the time of the Prophet. Also, he was known to be illiterate. He'd been raised amongst so they knew that he was illiterate, they knew he couldn't read and write, and he wasn't known for his poetry. And then he brings these...
Now he comes blazing with this poetry. So the Quraysh send their poets, go listen to these words. Where's he getting them from? So they went there, and the first charge they put against him is that he's crazy. Yeah? He's gone dulali. He's having delusions. He's seeing things, he's hearing things. But wait, the words he's coming out with are not the words of a madman. They're so coherent, they're so beautiful, they make sense, they imply order. They're not gibberish. Yeah? So we can rule that out. And then they say he's lying then. He's pretending an angel speaking to him, but really he's coming up with the words and he's relaying them as if an angel's talking to him. But they go, but wait a minute, what was his nickname? Al-Amin, the truthful one. Now this man Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was known as Al-Amin. The reason being why? If in that time you had possessions, treasure, and you needed to travel to another land, you couldn't take that treasure with you. But he was known as the one you could leave your treasure with, because he wouldn't sell it, or he wouldn't steal from it. You could return and he would return it to you. So this was one of his known traits.
And even when they were disputing with him, they still had their gold with him, because they knew there's a place where you could leave it and it would come back to you. So keep the trust.
And he even said to them, if I were to tell you now that there's an army on the other side of the mountain waiting to invade Mecca, what would you do? And they said, well, we'd prepare our defences, because we know you're Al-Amin, the truthful one, and if you say it, it must be true. So if you believe me in that, why won't you believe me now? So this rules out him being a liar. So what was the third thing they came with? It's sorcery. What? You're Arab poets. You're some of the greatest Arab poets in the land. We send you to a man who's coming out with Arab poetry and you're telling us it's magic. Which means there's something profound in those words.
And it couldn't be normally explained. So they had to...
So it was supernatural even then. The Qur'an was supernatural even then. Okay. So now we know that this Qur'an is what? Supernatural. When we look at the Qur'an and we look at its teachings and we look at its guidance, if everyone would adhere to its teachings, we would have peace on earth.
I'd agree with that.
I'm not saying everyone became a Muslim and
I agree with what you're saying.
the teachings, alhamdulillah. So this is evidence that where this is from, and this gives you reason to believe. And then not just that, I mean, I'm sure you've heard my video on the 5 poisons destroy society. So this, following the guidance of this Qur'an, will protect yourself and your family and society from all of these ills. Now we've got a question: could a man in the desert 1400 years ago come with this supernatural poetry that seemed to apply order in the 21st century, the madness of the 21st century? It could apply law and order. It's madness. You understand? So this is where we come to today. Now we believe when the Quran says Muhammad is the messenger, he's the one who shows us how to use this Quran. So now what do we have now? We don't just have this abstract Christian idea of this immaculate Jesus who was pure and never married and never did anything, and yet you're supposed to relate to him, you're supposed to be like him. What do you mean? How can we be like Jesus? This is why, have you heard of a book called The World's 100? It's a beautiful book. It's by a Christian guy called Michael H. Hart. Alright, and it's the world's 100 most influential people in history. Now he's a Christian. Who did he put number 1?
Muhammad.
Allahu Akbar. Muhammad Sallallahu number 1. He put Jesus number 3, and he put Paul number 5.
Paul?
Number 5. Yeah.
Who's 2?
2 was Isaac Newton.
Okay.
Alright. Now why did he put Muhammad Sallallahu number 1? Because he said he was the only man in history who was supremely successful on a secular and religious level, on every aspect of it. Whether it was as a king, whether it was as a leader, as a neighbor, as a friend, as a father, as a husband, as a businessman, as a diplomat. He was profoundly successful in all of these attributes. So I, as a man today, Allahu Akbar, want to be successful in my life also. I want to avoid the dangers of this world in my life also. Now, if I wanted to get into, I don't know, computer software, computers and all that business, yeah, I'd probably watch a video of Bill Gates. I'd probably read his autobiography, and I'd see what he did and try to emulate what he did, isn't it? That's just business, right? We're talking about a man that I can look to, follow his example, and he was the most successful man in history that's ever existed, and influential, yeah? That I, alhamdulillah, have a role model now. Now for me this is just by God, because he's not just made it abstract, yeah? He's not just sent himself. Look, again, Christians talk about Jesus, oh, he never sinned. You believe Jesus was God?
No.
How can Jesus sin if he's God? Because why? Because God is the criteria for sin. It's God who decides what is sinful and what isn't sinful. So if you're God, you can decide what's sinful or not. Alright. Also with Jesus, you only have how many years of his life spoken about in the New Testament? 3 years?
Yeah.
3 years preaching? So how can you then say, after, and I think Gospel of John, it's only 1 year. Alright. How can you take that and then say he was a sinless man? And then ignore verses in the Bible which say every man born of a woman inherits sin. Yeah, and he was born of a woman. Alright. All this abstract stuff is nonsense. But when you have a like Muhammad Sallallahu that lived and breathed and talked and walked like we did, and never claimed to be anything other than a man, just as Jesus did, by the way.